My heart swelled. I remember that feeling so clearly. It was the soft hum of the city, the warm night air on my skin, and her hand in mine as we walked through a market in Bangkok. "It's so beautiful here, Lila," I told her, my voice feeling lighter than it had in years. She squeezed my hand. "Yes, my home is beautiful. You like it?" I smiled, looking down at her, her eyes sparkling under the neon lights. "I love it. I love being with you." She just smiled, that smile that always made me feel like the luckiest man alive. We stopped at a small food stall, the smells of grilling meat and spices filling the air. "So you try this one, okay?" she asked, pointing to a skewer. "It's very good." I hesitated for a moment. "Are you sure? My stomach isn't always good with new things." She laughed, a gentle sound that always made me relax. "Don't worry, I make sure. You are okay, I take care of you." That was it, that was the feeling. Being taken care of, being seen. I had found it, I thought, that second chance at romance I never thought I'd get. I was a few years into my retirement, a widower and honestly pretty lonely back in the States. Thailand, I figured, was a fresh start. And Lila, she made me feel alive again, young even. I felt like I was floating. Every day was a dream. "You really make me happy, Lila," I confessed, my voice a little husky. She leaned her head on my shoulder as we walked. "You make me happy too, my darling. Very happy." Her words were like a balm to my soul, soothing all the old aches. I imagined our future together, peaceful and full of light. This was going to be my new life, my dream life. This was where I belonged now with her. I knew it in my heart. This was my new beginning. I closed my eyes for a moment, just soaking it all in, the noise, the smells, the feeling of her hand in mine. This was more than just a place, it was a feeling, a hope reborn. And she was at the center of it all. I felt a complete sense of peace. This was it. I met Lila at a small cafe near my apartment. I was trying to figure out how to order coffee, stumbling over the Thai words, and she just smiled, stepped in, and helped me. "You want hot coffee, yes, or cold?" she asked, her voice soft and clear. I felt a blush rise. "Hot, please, and thank you." "My Thai isn't so good yet," she just chuckled. "No problem, I help you." It was that simple, that small act of kindness opened something inside me. After my wife Susan passed a few years back, and my kids grew up and moved on with their own lives, I felt like I was drifting. My house back home, the one Susan and I built together, suddenly felt too big, too quiet. Every room echoed with memories, and most days, I just felt a profound, aching loneliness. Thailand offered a change of scenery, a chance to escape that quiet, empty house and the grief that still clung to me like a shadow. I wanted peace, yes, but I also wanted connection, something I hadn't realized how much I craved until Lila stepped in. We started talking that day, and we never really stopped. She'd ask me about America, about my family. "You miss your children?" she'd ask, her eyes full of genuine concern. "Yes, I do," I'd admit, "but they have their own lives now, though their own families." She would nod, understanding. "That is good. You are a good father." It felt good to be acknowledged, to have someone listen without judgment. I found myself telling her things I hadn't told anyone else. My regrets about not spending enough time with Susan, the lingering sadness, the fear of growing old alone. Lila listened when I talked about my life, my regrets, everything. She made me feel seen, like my stories mattered. "Your heart is very big," she told me once, tracing a finger over my arm. "You have much love to give." Her words resonated deep, within me, touching a place that had been dormant for so long. We spent every day together. She'd come to my apartment in the mornings. "You want breakfast? I make you something good," she'd say, and she'd head straight to my small kitchen. She cooked for me, simple Thai dishes, always asking if I liked them. "Is it too spicy? I can make less spicy next time." She showed me around, taking me to temples I wouldn't have found on my own, to local markets where she'd haggle playfully with the vendors. "This one is cheaper, yes?" she'd tease, and I'd just laugh, enjoying her energy. She'd explain things about the culture, about her family, making Thailand feel less foreign, more like home. She knew what I liked to drink, how I liked my coffee. She just was there. Her presence filled the void I hadn't known how to fill. I started depending on her easy smile, her gentle touch, her constant companionship. "I don't know what I'd do without you, Lila," I confessed one evening, sitting on my small balcony watching the city lights blink on. She just leaned her head on my shoulder. "You don't need to worry. I am here." Her simple statement settled over me a blanket of comfort. I started thinking about her as my rock, my anchor in this new world. I dismissed any thoughts of risk, of dependence. This felt so good, so right. It was exactly what I needed. Or so I thought. I had been drifting for so long, and she was the first person in years who made me feel tethered, truly connected to another human being. My initial relief and comfort solidified into deep affection and dependence on Lila, and I rationalized any growing emotional risk. I just wanted this feeling to last forever. I wanted her. I believed she was genuine, and my heart, so starved for affection, readily accepted it. This felt like a gift, a miracle. The knot tightened. It started small, these little things I brushed off, telling myself it was just cultural differences, or maybe my own overthinking. I'd ask her about her family sometimes, trying to learn more about her life before me. "You have many brothers and sisters, Lila?" I asked her one morning as we ate breakfast. She paused, picking at her rice. "Oh yes, many. They are busy." Her gaze shifted away, a subtle avoidance I noticed but didn't dwell on. "Are they all in the village?" I pressed gently. She just nodded vaguely. "Yes, mostly." My mind wanted to know more, but her answers were like trying to hold water. I told myself it was just her being private, maybe shy. I didn't want to push her, didn't want to make her uncomfortable. I just wanted to keep her happy, keep things easy between us. Then came the calls. She'd get these calls late at night, usually, when we were winding down. Her phone would buzz and she'd glance at the screen, her expression unreadable, then stand up. "I go outside, okay? Just my sister. She talks very loud." She'd step out onto my balcony, her voice low, hushed. I could hear the murmur of her words, but never enough to make out what she was saying. When she came back in, I'd usually ask, "Everything all right? Was that your sister?" She'd nod, or sometimes just wave a dismissive hand. "Family problem. Nothing for you to worry." One time I offered, "Lila, if there's a problem, you know I'm here. I want to help." She just shook her head a little too quickly and gave me a faint, almost strained smile. "No, no. I handle it. Thank you, my darling, but it is okay." My offer seemed to make her uncomfortable. I remember feeling a tiny prickle of unease then, a fleeting thought that something wasn't quite right. But then she'd lean into me, her touch soft, and I'd push the thought away. I wanted to trust her completely. I had to. Then came the money. It started subtly, like everything else. One afternoon she looked at me with those big, sad eyes. "My mother, she is very sick. She needs operation, very expensive." My heart sank. "Oh, Lila, I'm so sorry. What can I do?" She hesitated, then looked down. "My family. They don't have enough money. Doctor says she must have soon." I felt a sudden urge to fix it, to be her hero. "How much do you need?" I asked, my voice a bit shaky. She told me a sum, larger than I was comfortable with, but not impossible. I paused, a brief internal debate. Was this real? Was she just asking because she knew I had money? But then I looked at her face, her apparent distress, and I dismissed the doubts. "Okay," I said, "I can help you with that for your mother." She hugged me tightly. "Oh, thank you, my darling. You are so good to me. My family will pray for you." The relief on her face felt genuine, and that feeling, that sense of being needed and doing good, washed over me. I told myself it was love, that I was helping the woman I cared about. A few weeks later, it was her brother. "My brother, he wants to go to good school, but tuition is very high." I was sitting on my sofa reading when she brought it up, her voice light, almost casual. "He is very smart, you know. He can have good future." My stomach clenched a little. Again? So soon? I wanted to ask more questions. to understand why her family couldn't support him, why it always fell to her or to me. But I didn't. I just listened. "How much is it?" I asked, already knowing my answer. She named another figure. I swallowed hard. My savings weren't endless. "Okay," I said, a sigh escaping my lips. "I will help him too." She smiled, that dazzling smile that always disarmed me. "You are my angel." "Thank you, my darling." Each time I opened my wallet, a knot started forming in my stomach. Just a small one at first, but it was there. A nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right, that I was giving too much, that her needs were endless. But I pushed it down. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. My hope outweighed the whispers of doubt. The knot tightened. It felt like someone had just pulled a string tight around my stomach and wouldn't let go. She started disappearing for longer periods now. "Family emergency," she'd say, her voice hurried. "My village. My auntie is very sick." My stomach would clench each time she said "my village," a word that felt like a shield. I'd try to hide my anxiety. "How long will you be gone, Lila?" I'd ask, trying to sound casual, but my heart would pound. She'd always be vague. "Maybe 2 days, maybe 3, I come back soon." I'd wait. My apartment, which had felt so full with her, now felt empty, echoing every tick of the clock. The silence was deafening. I hated those days. I hated the uncertainty. My mind raced, imagining everything. I told myself she was helping her family, that I was paranoid. But silence stretched, doubt grew louder. One Tuesday morning, she kissed me goodbye. "I go to my sick auntie now," she said, her smile too bright. "I call you tonight." I watched her leave, feeling a familiar ache of dread. That evening, I waited for her call. My phone lay silent on the table. I checked it every few minutes. No call. "Maybe she's busy," I told myself, trying to be understanding. Maybe her phone died. But old fears I kept trying to bury started to claw back up. I tried calling her. Once. It rang, then went straight to voicemail. My hand trembled as I redialed. Twice, then 3 times. The same result. Just her recorded. A voice, distant, telling me she wasn't available. My heart pounded. This wasn't like her, not the Lila who was so attentive, so careful. Where is she? Is she okay? The panic began to bloom. The next day I couldn't sit still. I woke up with a heavy, hollow feeling, her side of the bed cold. I called again. Nothing. Just the voicemail. My mind screamed. I had to do something. I got dressed quickly and went straight to the small cafe where we first met. The owner, a friendly old woman, smiled. "Lila?" I asked, voice tight. "You seen Lila?" She shook her head. "No, not today, Mr. John." My stomach twisted. I walked to the market. My eyes scanned every face, every stall. Nothing. The colors seemed dull, the smells oppressive. Every place we used to go, I walked past them all, hoping for a glimpse, a sign, anything. Just me, walking alone, a desperate shadow in a city, huge and uncaring. My heart broke. The hours crawled by. Each tick of the clock was a jab to my gut. She's not okay. Something is wrong. I kept picturing her, helpless, in trouble. And then the darker thought whispered, what if she just left? What if she didn't want to come back? I hated myself for thinking it, but it was there, a cold, sharp blade. My phone was glued to my hand. I must have called her 20 times. The same result, the voicemail. My throat was tight, my eyes stinging. I just wanted to hear her voice. I just wanted to know she was okay. The hope I'd clung to, her being my safe harbor, eroded with her absence. I felt unstable, like ground beneath me, crumbled away. 2 days later. 2 agonizing days. I was staring blankly at the TV when I heard the key in the lock. My head snapped up. It was Lila. She walked in, carrying a small bag, looking tired, but otherwise fine. My breath hitched. Relief flooded me, almost knocking me over. Then, immediately, anger, confusion and a deep cutting pain. "Lila, where have you been?" I practically shouted, jumping to my feet. My voice was shaky, full of desperate emotion. She just looked at me. My auntie, she was very sick. I told you. My hands clenched. I called you over and over. Your phone went straight to voicemail. I was worried sick. I thought something terrible happened to you. My voice cracked. She shrugged, setting her bag down. Oh, my phone died. No battery. My village. No charger. That was it. No apology. No explanation why she hadn't contacted me. Just a shrug, a dismissive wave. You worry too much, my darling. Her words hit me like a slap. You worry too much? After 2 days of agonizing fear, I felt shattered. The illusion of our relationship, carefully constructed in my mind, collapsed. My heart broke into 1,000 pieces. I stared at her, profound devastation. The betrayal wasn't just absence, it was her indifference to my pain, her dismissal of my terror. I felt a chill spread through me, bitter cold, deeper than the empty house. I was feeling sick, just sick to my stomach. My apartment felt cold, even with the Bangkok heat outside. Lila had been gone again for 3 days, no word, just silence. I sat on my sofa, staring at my phone, trying to find some kind of comfort, some hint of the Lila I thought I knew. I opened her Facebook page, scrolling through old photos of us, trying to rekindle that warm feeling, that sense of hope she always gave me. My thumb moved slowly, past smiling selfies of us at temples, candid shots of her laughing at the market. I paused on one photo, not a new one, maybe from a year or so ago before I even came to Thailand. It was Lila, smiling brightly, arms wrapped around a man. A Thai man. He was tall, handsome, and he looked at her the way I used to look at her, with adoration, with ownership. My heart started to pound, a slow, heavy drum in my chest. Who is this? I thought, my mind racing. She never mentioned another man, never. The caption below the photo was in Thai, a string of characters I couldn't understand. My hands began to tremble. I knew a few words, enough to recognize names, but this was a longer sentence, a full phrase. A cold dread seeped into my bones. This wasn't just a friend, I felt it. I needed to know. My eyes darted around the room. I had to ask someone. My neighbor, Somchai, was usually home around this time. He was a quiet man, but kind, and he spoke a little English. I grabbed my phone, my fingers fumbling, and practically ran next door, knocking urgently on his door. He opened it, a surprised look on his face. "Mr. John, you okay?" he asked, seeing the panic in my eyes. "Somchai, please," I gasped, holding out my phone, pointing at the photo. "Can you read this? What does this say?" He took my phone, his brow furrowing as he read the Thai characters. He looked at the picture, then back at the caption, then his gaze slowly lifted to mine. His expression softened, filled with a deep, crushing pity. I braced myself. "Mr. John," he began, his voice low, almost a whisper, "this is Lilas and her husband." My breath hitched. "Her husband?" I felt the blood drain from my face. "What do you mean, husband? She told me she was single. She told me she had no one." Somchai shook his head slowly, his eyes sad. "No, sir, this is her wedding day. The caption says, 'My beautiful wife and me forever.'" Something like that. My world spun. The hallway swam around me. Husband, wedding day? The words echoed in my head, loud and unbearable. Everything she had told me, everything I had believed, fractured into a million pieces. But the money," I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. "The money for her mother's operation and her brother's school. She said her family needed it." Somchai sighed, a heavy sound. "Many times, family needs money for things. Some women, they have arrangements to help family." He looked away, clearly uncomfortable, but his words hung in the air, a devastating confirmation. Arrangements. That word twisted in my gut. I stumbled back into my apartment, the phone still, clutched in my hand. The image of Lila and him burned into my mind. The money, the disappearances, the vague answers, the late-night calls outside, and it all slammed into me. Every single red flag I had ignored, justified, or pushed away, now screamed at me, loud and clear. They weren't just inconsistencies. They were pieces of a puzzle, and now the picture was devastatingly complete. It wasn't just a lie, it was a whole other life. A life she had hidden from me, skillfully, effortlessly. She had played me for a fool, for my loneliness, for my desperation, to believe in her. The emotional high I'd felt, the comfort she'd offered, the hope that had blossomed in my chest, all of it felt like a sick, cruel joke. I felt a profound sense of disorientation. Who was this woman I had given my heart to? Was any of it real? Or was it all just a performance? Every smile, every touch, every "my darling" a carefully delivered line. The betrayal was deeper than I could have imagined. I had been living in a dream, and she had been living a complete separate reality. My stomach churned, a raw, burning ache. The air felt heavy, suffocating. I couldn't breathe. My innocence was shattered. My hope was dead. I stopped leaving my apartment. The blinds stayed drawn, keeping out the bright Bangkok sun, mimicking the darkness that had settled inside me. I felt like a fool, a naive old man who'd lost his mind, and worse, his money. The shame was suffocating, a heavy blanket pressed against my chest. Every morning I'd wake up and the first thought was always her face, then the photo Somchai showed me, then the biting truth. Husband, wedding day. My mind would replay the conversations. My mother, she needs operation. Very expensive. I'd remember her sad eyes, my desperate need to help. How much do you need? I'd asked, eager to be her hero, and she'd just taken it, every single time. You are so good to me, she'd whispered, her voice like honey, now a poison. I thought about calling my kids back home, a fleeting impulse. My daughter Sarah always worried about me. Dad, are you eating enough? Are you lonely? How could I tell them that I'd fallen for a scam, that I'd lost a chunk of my retirement savings to someone who was playing me for a fool? No, I'm fine, honey, I'd practiced in my head, hearing my own voice, hollow and unconvincing. Just enjoying the quiet life. The words tasted like ash. I couldn't bear to tell them. The thought of their disappointment, their pity, was worse than the shame itself. I just couldn't. I felt utterly alone, trapped by my own foolishness. I spent my days going over every memory, every word she'd said. It was like a cruel movie playing in my head, but now everything was different, seen through a bitter, clear lens. I remembered her saying, "I take care of you, my darling." I had believed her. How could I have believed that? Every kind word felt like a calculated move now, a thread in a carefully woven web. Every touch, every gentle hand on my arm, felt like a lie designed to extract more. "You are my angel," she'd once said, her face earnest. Angel? I was just her mark, her ATM. My mind screamed at me, "How could you be so blind, John? How could you fall for this?" The questions circled, relentless, hammering away at my already fragile sense of self-worth. The money. My bank balance, once a comfortable buffer for my golden years, was now a shocking testament to my gullibility. I'd log in online, staring at the numbers, seeing how quickly it had dwindled. Is there any way to get it back? I'd ask myself, even though I knew the answer. No. It was gone. My retirement dream, the peace I'd sought, was in tatters. I felt a cold dread when I thought about the future, about how little I had left. The financial drain wasn't just numbers on a screen. It was my freedom, my security, bleeding away. I'd pace my small apartment, the walls closing in, a prison of my own making. I wasn't just alone, I was isolated by my shame. I pictured Somchai, my neighbor, the one who told me the truth. If I ran into him, what would I say? Would he look at me with that pity again? "You were right, Somchai," I imagined myself saying, my voice raspy with humiliation. I was an idiot. His quiet understanding would only make it worse. I couldn't face anyone. I felt like a giant neon sign was flashing above my head, screaming, "Fool!" I was a walking monument to bad decisions and desperate loneliness. The loneliness, now though, was sharper, more profound, because it was born of my own choices, my own blinding need for connection. I had paid for companionship, and what I got was a brutal lesson. The truth was a relentless tide pulling me under. It wasn't just her fault. I had let myself be vulnerable. My grief and my desperate need to feel needed had been the open door. I had wanted so badly to believe her, to believe in a second chance at love, that I had handed her the key to my wallet and my heart. And she took both. My heart felt heavy, a cold, dead weight in my chest. I felt so alone, more alone than I had ever been in my life, because this time the isolation was self-imposed, a consequence of my own foolishness. I was unraveling, piece by agonizing piece, lost in a labyrinth of regret. I had to know. My mind wouldn't let it go. The picture, Somchai's words, the months of lies. It all swirled in a sickening vortex. I paced my apartment, feeling a desperate need for answers, for some explanation that would make sense of the chaos inside me. Even knowing what I knew, a small, foolish part of me yearned for her to tell me it was all a mistake, a misunderstanding. I had to try one last time. It was a compulsion, a final, painful step before I could truly begin to sever the ties. I opened my messaging app, my thumb hovering over her name. My heart pounded. What would I even say? How could I confront someone who had so completely fooled me? My fingers shook as I typed. "Lila," I wrote, my voice in my head barely a whisper. I know about him. The man in the picture. Your husband." My breath caught in my throat. Just seeing the words, stark and undeniable on the screen, made my stomach clench. "Why, just tell me why." I typed those two simple words, "Just tell me why," because it felt like the only question that mattered, the only thing that could possibly bring any kind of closure. I paused, rereading it, then pressed send. The message hung there, delivered, awaiting a response that felt like it would decide my entire future. My phone just sat there, silent, a black mirror reflecting my anxious face. I waited. The hours crawled by, each minute feeling like an eternity. I checked my phone compulsively, every few minutes, hoping for the notification, dreading it. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep properly. My mind conjured 1,000 different scenarios. She would deny it, she would confess everything, she would apologize, she would disappear forever. My apartment felt suffocating, filled with the ghosts of her laughter and my own gullibility. The days stretched on, 2, then 3. Still nothing. Just the deafening silence from her end. I felt a cold despair settle over me. Was this how it would end? With no explanation, no final word, just a ghosting? That would be a bitter pill to swallow, confirmation of just how little I had meant to her. Then on the fourth morning my phone buzzed. I practically leaped across the room to grab it, my heart hammering against my ribs. It was her. A message. My hands trembled so violently I almost dropped the phone. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, and opened it. One short sentence. My eyes scanned the words, expecting a torrent of denial, a plea for forgiveness. Anything but this. "I needed to help my family, you understood that." That was it. My breath hitched, no apology, no explanation about the husband, no regret. Just a justification, flat and cold, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. As if I was just supposed to accept that my emotions, my money, my entire world was simply a means to an end for her family. It felt like a physical punch, to the gut, the air knocked out of me. The casualness, the lack of remorse, the sheer audacity of her message. It stunned me. I reread it again, searching for some hidden meaning, some warmth, some flicker of the Lila I had loved. There was nothing, just those cold, hard words. The pain was sharp, but strangely underneath it, there was a sense of release. It was as if a tightly wound spring inside me, a spring of hope and denial, finally snapped. The emotional chain that had held me to her, to this illusion, finally broke. There was nothing left to cling to, no more lies to unravel, no more hope to be shattered. This was the end. Her final message was not a bridge, but a wall, stark and unyielding. I stared at the screen, the words burning into my eyes. I needed to help my family. You understood that? No, Lila. I didn't understand. I understood what love was, what trust was, what a shared life could be. I understood what it felt like to give freely, to care deeply. But this cold calculation, this absolute indifference to my pain, I would never understand. And in that moment, as the last vestiges of my emotional attachment withered and died, a strange calm washed over me. It was empty, yes, a vast emptiness where my hope had once resided, but it was also quiet. The noise in my head, the frantic questions, the desperate longing, it all faded into a dull hum. The emotional bond was finally severed. I had made my final emotional stand, and her response had provided the definitive breaking of the emotional tie. I was beginning the painful but necessary process of detachment. This was finality. I packed up my apartment slowly. Each item I put into a box felt heavy, not just with its own weight, but with the weight of my failed dream, my shattered trust. I didn't know where I was going, just that it wasn't staying here. This apartment, once a haven, now felt like a cage, a constant reminder of my own foolishness. As I looked around the empty rooms, I saw more than just my belongings, more than just the ghost of Lila. I saw my own desperate need, my need to be loved, to not be alone, to feel important. Again, to be the hero. "You really make me happy, Lila," I remembered saying, my voice full of genuine affection. I heard her reply, "You make me happy too, my darling." Now that exchange felt like a cruel joke, the words empty echoes in the silence of my mind. I sat on the bare floor surrounded by boxes, and for the first time truly looked inward. My shame was still a crushing weight, but something else was starting to surface. It wasn't just her fault. This hard truth, this bitter pill, began to form in my gut. I had wanted to believe her so badly that I ignored everything that screamed otherwise. My mind replayed Somchai's words. "This is her husband, sir, their wedding day." And I remembered my own frantic denials, my desperate clinging to the idea that it was all a misunderstanding. I thought of the late-night calls, the vague answers, the repeated requests for money for her family. "My mother, she needs operation. Very expensive." I saw myself eager to help, eager to prove my love, eager to buy her affection. "How much do you need?" I'd asked, my wallet already open, my heart already open even wider. I had let my own loneliness blind me. "Why, John? Why? Didn't you see it?" I whispered to myself, the question a raw accusation. My own voice sounded hollow in the empty room. "You saw the signs. You felt the doubt. But you pushed it down, didn't you?" I closed my eyes, picturing the endless procession of family emergencies, each one draining more from my bank account and more from my soul. I remembered my own quiet anxieties, the knot in my stomach that had started so small, a tiny tremor, and grown into a crushing weight. "You wanted to believe so badly," I told myself, the words a confession. You wanted her love more than you wanted the truth. It was a painful realization, a stripping away of my self-pity. I had come to Thailand escaping grief, escaping an empty house, escaping the quiet loneliness of my life. And I had found a woman who, for a time, filled that void. She made me feel seen, made me feel worthy, made me feel young again. I had projected all my hopes and desires onto her, onto this second chance at romance. But in my desperation for that feeling, I had overlooked her inconsistencies, excused her disappearances, and willingly, blindly given her my money. She said, "I take care of you," I muttered, the irony stinging. I realized I was the one who was supposed to be taken care of, not just financially, but emotionally. I was the one who needed to be honest with myself, to address my own vulnerabilities. It was a hard truth, a bitter pill to swallow. I wasn't just a victim of a cruel deception. I was a willing participant in my own downfall. My need to feel needed to escape myself had been the true betrayer. But really seeing it, felt like the first breath I'd taken in a long, long time. The air in the apartment, once thick with shame, now felt clearer, sharper. The realization wasn't dramatic, no sudden flash of enlightenment. It was quiet, a slow dawn breaking after a very long, dark night. My internal state had shifted profoundly. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was beginning to truly understand myself, accepting my own vulnerabilities and confronting my past mistakes head-on. This self-clarity, born from the wreckage of my trust, was the beginning of my healing. It was the moment I stopped looking at Lila and started looking squarely in the mirror. Why did I need her so much? I asked the empty room, my voice raspy. Was it really love or just a desperate craving for connection? The answer slowly formed, unwelcome but undeniable. It was both, a potent mix of genuine affection and a gaping emotional hole I thought she could fill. I had given her power, not out of love but out of my own weakness. I had enabled her deception by refusing to see what was right in front of me. Every time she asked for money, I'd heard her pleas and ignored the nagging voice that asked why her family couldn't help. I'd heard my mother is sick and instantly saw myself as the savior, not the dupe. My ego, my desire to be the generous provider, had played a part too. I was not just a victim, I was accountable. The silence in the room was no longer oppressive. It was reflective. I felt the scars, the emotional wounds, but they no longer bled quite so furiously. They were beginning to close. This quiet acceptance, this brutal honesty with myself, was the only way forward. I had tried to buy love, to escape my past, to fill a void with someone else. But true peace, I now understood, had to come from within. I had to forgive myself for my naivete, for my blind spots. I had to learn from this painful lesson. The weight on my chest lessened, replaced by a nascent sense of peace, a fragile but growing strength. This was the turning point. This was the hard-won clarity. I was no longer just heartbroken, I was awake. The air felt clean, carrying the promise of a different kind of future. I bought a ticket to a small island in the south of Thailand. Somewhere quiet, far from the bustling chaos of Bangkok, far from the memories that clung to the walls of my old apartment. No big cities, no bustling markets, just the promise of sand and sea. I sold most of my things, almost everything I owned, keeping only what fit in a single backpack. It was a strange feeling, watching my life get packed into a few small boxes, then disappear. My furniture, my few kitchen items, all gone. It felt like shedding an old skin, shedding the man who had been so easily fooled, so desperately lonely. "Are you sure you want to sell everything, sir?" the second-hand dealer asked, looking at me curiously. "Yes," I said, my voice firm. "I'm sure. I don't need it anymore." It was like starting over again, but this time the feeling was different. This time I wasn't running from grief, from Susan's absence, from the quiet emptiness of my house back home. I was running towards myself, towards a quiet understanding I hadn't known I needed. The journey south was long but peaceful. I watched the rice paddies turn into palm trees, the city skyline replaced by rolling hills. When the ferry finally docked, the air was different, softer, scented with salt and a hint of jasmine. The island was small, sleepy. I found a tiny bungalow near the beach, simple, with a small porch and the constant murmur of the waves. It was exactly what I needed. No echoes of Lila here, no phantom smiles or whispers of family emergency. Just the rhythmic sound of the ocean, a steady, calming presence. I sat on my porch on the first evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. "This is it, John," I told myself, my voice raspy. "This is where you rebuild." The memories of Lila still sting sometimes, a dull ache, like an old injury flaring up in damp weather. I'd see a woman with a similar laugh, or hear a Thai phrase she used, and a jolt would go through me. But it's not the sharp, gut-wrenching pain it once was. It's more of a distant echo, a cautionary tale I tell myself. Remember how that felt? I'd ask myself, feeling the faint shadow of past humiliation. Remember what you learned. I don't dwell on her. She fades, slowly, like a photograph left out in the sun. I don't feel anger anymore, not truly. Just a quiet understanding of what happened, and more importantly, why I let it happen. She was just doing what she felt she had to do, I told myself one morning, watching a fisherman cast his net. And I was doing what I felt I had to do to find love. The difference was my intentions had been genuine, hers a performance. That knowledge, though painful, brought a strange kind of peace. I started going for long walks on the beach every morning, the sand cool under my bare feet. I'd pick up shells, smooth stones, feeling the weight of them in my hand. One day, a local man, old like me, with a kind, weathered face, stopped me. He looked at my backpack. "You are new here?" he asked, his English broken but clear. "Yes," I replied, "just arrived from Bangkok." He nodded. "Ah, Bangkok, too much noise. Here is quiet." I smiled. "Yes, quiet is good. Very good." We sat on a fallen log for a while, just watching the waves. He didn't ask about my past or why I was there. He just sat, a comforting presence. "You like the ocean?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "It feels like a reset." He nodded again, understanding in his eyes. "Ocean washes everything clean." His simple words resonated deeply. It felt like a confession, a quiet acknowledgement of my desire to cleanse myself of the past. I'm learning to be okay with just me. The silence in my bungalow isn't empty anymore. It's full of my own thoughts, my own peace. I cook simple meals, read books, and listen to the waves. There are no demands, no hidden agendas, no anxious waiting for a phone call. Sometimes I find myself humming an old tune Susan used to like, and the memory isn't filled with grief or regret, but a gentle warmth. I think about my kids too, and for the first time I think about telling them the truth, not with shame, but as a lesson learned. It was a mistake, yes, I'll tell them, but I learned something important about myself. I'm not sure when, but one day I will. I'm learning to find peace in the quiet in my own company. This solitude isn't loneliness, it's a chosen peace, a space for growth. It's not the love story I came here for. I didn't find the fairy tale romance, the second chance at a perfect relationship, but maybe in its own way it's a better one. A story of finding myself, of confronting my own needs and vulnerabilities, and learning to stand on my own 2 feet again. I feel older now, not just in years, but in soul. Wiser, certainly, and quietly stronger. The pain is part of my story, a deep scar, but it doesn't define me anymore. I survived, yes, but more than that, I grew. I'm living a simpler life, one where I am truly free, not just from a bad relationship, but from the desperate need that led me into it. My horizon is different now, open and clear. There's no bitterness, just a quiet understanding and the calm acceptance of a new beginning.